welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be making gluten-free Pop-Tarts, and this was really because I missed Pop-Tarts. And they're not just gluten-free, but they're also dairy-free. So what you're going to need is a package of the Pamela's gluten-free bread mix, some shortening, and some butter, but I'm using actually a vegan buttery spread. And then you'll need some ice water and something for your filling. So I use jam. So what it comes with is a little yeast packet, and we will not be using this, so you can just set this aside and use it when you make bread. So you'll take all of the contents and you want to put it in a heavy duty stand mixer. If you don't have a heavy duty stand mixer, you can always do it the old fashioned way with a pastry cutter and a bowl. But you'll pour all the contents in there, and then you'll need 4 ounces of shortening and 4 ounces of butter. So 1 stick of each. And you want them actually to be cold, so keep them in the refrigerator until you are just about to use them. And then we'll just cut them into pieces. Okay, so now that all of those are cut, I'm going to put them into the mixer. Also, I should mention that you'll want to put your paddle attachment on. So that's the one that looks like that. Okay. And we'll start off slow. And you want it to mix until it gets all nice and incorporated. What you're looking for is little pea-sized pieces of the dough and butter shortening mixed together. This should take about a minute. And again, like I said, if you don't have a stand mixer, you can always use a pastry cutter. It'll take a little bit more time, a little bit more muscle, but it does the job just the same. And you can see that it has pretty well incorporated all of the fats, so all of the butter and shortening, and it's kind of a crummy dough now. So now we're going to add ice water. We'll be using 1/4 cup, and so this has already been chilled. And so what you'll do is add it as it's mixing. Okay. So I'll put it on low and it'll start mixing. And then I'll slowly add the 1/4 cup of water. Okay. And now let that mix. You can see it's starting to get a little tough, so I might actually increase the speed. And you can see the dough is now starting to come together. Okay. So I don't want to overwork the dough, so I'll turn that off. Open the dough here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And now at this point, we're going to roll the dough out. But before I start that, this is usually a good time when I actually preheat the oven. So we want to preheat the oven to 350. Okay, so now we're going to roll the dough out. And to make it a little bit easier, we're going to be using parchment paper. We'll be putting the dough in between 2 sheets of parchment, and that way we don't have to actually get the rolling pin sticky with dough or the counter. Instead, it'll be in between these 2 sheets. So let's first start by taking a sheet of parchment and setting it down. That's going to be our bottom layer of parchment. Okay. So this is actually a lot of dough. So I'll probably actually only be using half to start off with. This should be good. You kind of want to just get it incorporated and kind of push everything together. If your dough is too crumbly, put it back in the mixer and add a little bit more water. You should be able to kind of form it into a ball like this, okay? Okay, so now that I got it kind of in a nice round, I'm gonna take my other piece of parchment and put it on top. And now I can take my rolling pin and roll the dough. And you can just turn the dough every so often so that you can roll it in other directions. So you're going to try to roll this out to 1/4 of an inch thick. So now the beauty of the parchment is that I can easily lift it off, and you can see how easy it peels off. Now I want to cut them into the Pop-Tart squares or rectangles. And so to do that, I actually use a ruler because I like to have my Pop-Tarts all be the same size. And so you need to cut actually a bottom and a top to your Pop-Tarts. So I just grab a knife. And I actually first start by cutting off all the rough edges. And then this extra stuff that you won't be using, just put back into the bowl with all the extra dough that will be then rolling out again the next time you roll to make more Pop-Tarts. Okay, so I like to do my Pop-Tarts about 4 inches by 3 inches. So I'm gonna make this longer side, probably the 4-inch side. So I just lay the ruler, and it looks like I'll be able to get 2. So I'll be making a cut there, at the 4-inch mark, and then at the 8-inch. And I like to mark it off on both sides. So. On this side, I want them to be 3 inches. So, 3, 6 mark. And now I just connect the lines. They're not going to be perfectly straight, but they'll be pretty good. So any of the outside pieces, again, we can put back in the bowl. And then this will now form 2 Pop-Tarts. Okay, so a top and a bottom. And so what I'll do is I'll take each piece and set it down onto a baking sheet. And on mine, I actually have it lined with a Silpat non-stick pad that you can put on your baking sheets. If you don't have that, you just want to spray some Pam. So these will be the bottoms to my Pop-Tarts. And then I want to now put the filling in. Some homemade strawberry raspberry jam. So open this. We like a decent amount of filling, so I usually take about a tablespoon worth, and I'll set that down. And you want to leave a little bit of an edge going around because you're going to need to connect your top to your bottom. Okay, once you have the filling in, now we'll get our tops and put those on top of the filled bottoms. You just take the dough and set it down. And now to seal the sides, I'm going to use my fingers, but I'm also then going to crimp it with a fork. So first I just press down on the dough. Okay, once you've pressed the sides down, you can then take your fork and crimp the edges by pressing the end of the fork around the edge. And now what you'll do is you'll repeat the process with rolling out the dough, cutting out the pieces, filling them, and sealing the tops on with the rest of the dough that you have remaining. So now I've rolled out all of the dough and have filled them with the jam and pressed on the lids, and you can see that I was able to make 8 Pop-Tarts. There was a little bit of leftover dough. I ended up just throwing that away because there was not enough to really make another Pop-Tart. Okay, so now these are going to go into the oven, 350 degrees, for 20 to 25 minutes until they're nice and golden brown. And I'll set the timer for 20 minutes and check on them then. So while the Pop-Tarts are cooking in the oven, I'm going to make a really simple icing to go on top. And it's really just a normal confectioner's sugar icing. And so I'm actually going to kind of zazz it up a bit by adding some of the jam that I put on the inside. So I'm going to start with about a cup of confectioner's sugar. Most icings actually are just confectioner's sugar and a little bit of cream. I'm actually going to be using a little bit of water instead because we're making this dairy free, and then some of the jam. And so to make sure that I get the consistency right, I'm going to add a little bit of my jam first, see how that absorbs, because it really depends on how watery your jam is, and then add a little bit of water. And if when you make it you realize that you want yours to be a little bit more flavorful, add more jam. It's really up to you. And add just a little bit of water at a time. So you can kind of see here, it's about a tablespoon, I'd say. And you can see it's really starting to pick up and absorb that sugar. This is pretty good. I might actually add a little bit more sugar to thicken that up a bit, because what we want it to do is we want it to be able to be spreadable, but then we don't want it to actually be falling off of the Pop-Tart. So a little bit more sugar. And that looks like a really good thickness, so you can see how it's still pretty movable, but it's good and thick, and it takes a little bit of time for it to fall off the spoon. I'm just going to set this aside until the Pop-Tarts are out of the oven, and when they come out they're going to have to cool completely before I can frost them. Okay, so it's been about 22 minutes on these ones, and they're looking just about done. So you can see that they've become nice and golden brown, and so they're about ready to come out of the oven. See how nice and perfect they look. Okay, so I'm going to set them down over here, let them cool, and we'll be back when they're done cooling. So hi, it's the next day now, and I let the Pop-Tarts cool overnight because it was getting a little late, so I decided to just let them cool, and now I'm going to frost them. So I have the frosting here, and I had put it in the fridge overnight, and now they will easily just spread the frosting on. You can see one Pop-Tart is actually missing. Someone became impatient and ate a hot Pop-Tart, which is fine. So there is a homemade, gluten-free, dairy-free Pop-Tart. See that there? Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed making these as much as I did. They're pretty easy. Takes a little time to roll them out, but otherwise it's few ingredients and really delicious. So I'm gonna cut into this one and enjoy it for my breakfast. Really good.